Hi, welcome to Continuing the Conversation with Sadie. Today I am with a guest whose work has shaped national conversations about safeguarding, children's rights, leadership, and public service for decades. And yet, what stands out most about her is not the scale of her career, but the depth of her values. We are talking today to Margaret Elizabeth Atkinsons. Margaret Elizabeth Atkinson has held some of the most significant safeguarding and leadership roles in the UK. She is currently the inaugural independent chair of the Safeguarding Board for Compass Childcare Limited. Get this, it gets even better. She serves as a board trustee for the EACT, overseeing safeguarding across 40 schools. She chairs C3, Collaborating for Health, a charity focused on grassroots prevention and community leadership. She advises the law faculty at Sheffield University on children's rights and the law, and she continues to mentor, teach, and support organisations committed to social justice, equality, and human rights. Wow, I've got more. Get ready. Before this chapter, Maggie spent years as an independent chair and scrutineer for multiple safeguarding children's partnerships: Bedford, Southend, Wirral, North Yorkshire, York, and Liverpool. She was the inaugural chair of the Church of England's Independent Safeguarding Board. She has been a non executive director, a strategic advisor, a think tank contributor, and an honorary professor. She has spoken across the UK and Europe, advised government departments, and mentored countless people doing work that truly matters. Last bit, I promise, but it does get better. And of course, she served as the Children's Commissioner for England from 2010 to 2015, a statutory role grounded in the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, dedicated to protecting and promoting the rights of the most vulnerable. But what makes Maggie such a powerful guest for this series is not just the breadth of her experience, it's the emotional and ethical foundation beneath it. She is someone who leads with values, someone who understands the weight of responsibility, someone who has navigated the emotional realities of leadership in spaces where the stakes are incredibly high, someone who has held boundaries, held people, and held truth, even when it was uncomfortable. I am feeling so much now, and I've not even started the conversation. Series 1 is all about foundations, core values, and the inner world. And Maggie's story is a masterclass. Did you hear that? Masterclass in all three. Maggie, I am more than grateful to have you here. I'm extremely grateful to have you here. Let's begin. Maggie, your career has been built on a deep commitment to safeguarding, justice, and the protection of children and vulnerable people. You've worked in roles where values aren't optional, they're essential. So when I always start with foundations and values. So when I look back across your career, I would like to know what core values have been your anchor, Maggie.
I think they are the core values of my family more than anything. Um, Very ordinary background. We grew up in a mining community in South Yorkshire. Dad worked at the pit. Mum went late into teaching, and they changed the roles in the household so that there was always one parent at home, no matter what time of day.
Do you have that stability?
Huge stability, but also we broke norms in our community. So my dad learned to shop and to cook and to help keep the house clean
Right.
My mum was always present when we got up and went to school, but she also did her homework for her college course in the same space as we did ours. Um,
Oh, fantastic.
my
Very
one
forward-thinking
grandparent was
lady.
part Irish, and therefore co conversations around the Sunday tea time table were likely to be political and deep and, argumentative as well as funny. Um, we were a faith household, and I say that completely unashamed. My dad was Anglican, my mum was Catholic, and we were brought up with the values of both communities. So you served as much as waiting for somebody to make sure you were okay. You volunteered. You helped run Christmas
Yeah,
fairs and garden parties and summer fetes and all the rest of it. You sold poppies. You know, my mum's sister had Down syndrome, and you stood and sold poppies for Mencap because you had an auntie who was a person with Downs, and dignity matters.
yeah,
So th-
yeah,
throughout our childhoods, there was this
fantastic.
values-driven way of being, and we were very lucky in our both our comprehensive school and our sixth form college that they were similar places. So we went to a Catholic comp where raising money for charity and looking after the downtrodden and being expected to be there for other people was a given. No matter how clever you were or how difficult school was, that was how you were. But they both also were incredibly ambitious places. The who says you can't
Yeah,
drive.
I love that.
Who's
I
told you you
love
can't
that.
do that? Who's told you you can't
Yeah,
aim high?
flip the
Um,
narrative.
yeah, so it was my comprehensive school that took my mum and dad on one side and said, "You do know that her and her twin brother are university material, don't you?" And we're not talking just ordinary universities. We're talking
No.
she's definitely Cambridge material, and so is he.
Maggie, I've done the introduction, don't you worry. I'll go there in a
So that
minute.
that sense of
Yeah, so you've got a
stand
lot of
your
drive.
ground when you know you have an aspiration has been part of our DNA in my
Yeah,
family,
I
and
love that.
yeah, no matter what comes at you, if you're driven by the values you were born with and you saw modeled for you, you always need a model.
Mm.
You always need a
And
model.
this is
And I've
this
worked
is
with
exactly why
amazing
we start
leaders and
here.
amazing workers and fantastic fellow teachers and fantastic fellow managers in services who put me in the shade and who made me learn every day. And that
Mhm.
sense of always being open to knowing that somebody will do it better than you, somebody will know more than you do, and somebody else will put you on a long enough leash for you to test yourself. They've been features of my life throughout. And I do think that matters unless you've got those people around you, and lots of people who are vulnerable and need care
It does
don't.
matter. Yeah.
And therefore, if you're a professional, you stand in the space of the people who should have been there and who can't be or won't be,
Mhm.
and you make it happen
Correct.
for people.
100%. Brilliant. Thank you for that, Maggie. That was very interesting and very inspiring. What shaped those values in you? Were they learned, inherited, or forged through your experience?
I think they were learned and inherited and forged through the
Yeah.
various experiences
Yeah.
of my career.
It's not a simple question,
So,
is it?
so being
No.
being a Barnsley lass who went to Cambridge, um, and met people who thought I was the comedy act, um, taught me a great deal about where my boundaries lay and what I wanted out of that place. It's a very rarefied teaching environment, Cambridge. It taught me an awful lot about who I really am and how hard I can really work great weeks before I go home and collapse for a month.
Would you
But it
recommend
also taught
Cambridge?
it, it also taught me a great deal about the fact that you don't have to try to become somebody else than who you are
Yeah, good
to
point.
succeed. You will find your tribe. You will always find your tribe, whether it's one person, two people, or 100. And between all of you, you will forge those links,
Correct. Yeah.
agree where
So
you will not give way and where you will. But I think the other thing that life has taught me is that every day is a learning day, and you never stop finding the next thing that makes you go, goodness me, I didn't know that about me or about that subject or about that issue in society.
So that we're talking about self-awareness, aren't we, as well?
But also questioning.
Yeah.
That sense of somebody sitting across the table from you or at the same meeting and coming from a completely different
Yeah.
perspective and sending me away down the corridor thinking, "Well, why do they think like that? And are they right? And am I wrong?" That
Well,
sense of
that's how I feel
questioning,
today talking to you, Maggie.
that sense of questioning everything, it is, I think, it's a vital characteristic.
Yeah.
Never rest on your
Yeah.
laurels, and if you're surprised, say you're surprised and go away and try and do something about it.
Yeah, very true. Very good. Um, you've worked in systems that could be political, pressured, and emotionally demanding. How did you stay connected to your foundations in these environments?
When they were still alive, I rang my mum and dad on a very regular basis. Almost always about 6 months into a new job to say, "I can't do this. You do know I can't do
Yeah.
this."
Right. Okay.
And one or other of them would say, "I know it's awful, isn't it? Are you coming for your tea?"
I love it. Good grounding. You
Yeah.
always had your anchor at home. Yeah.
Very much so,
Just
but
calm
also
you down.
yeah, my dad was a gardener, and I've always run to open spaces and to getting my hands in the soil because
Okay.
it takes you into a different space altogether,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Being outdoors.
you come away from those places with your feathers smoothed. Even and yes, some of the places where I've worked have been small p and large P political, and my dad was also the person who, when somebody got really spiky or angsty or whatever, he would say 2 things. They're still only a person whose background you know very little about, and you don't know
Mm,
what they've brought into the room
yeah.
with them as baggage or woes or
100%.
pressure themselves. But the second thing, I did one job in particular fairly early in my career where there was active aggro coming from some of the people I was working with, and at one point where something came to a head, I ran to my dad and I said, "I don't know what to do about this." And he said, "What you need to try and understand is what are they scared of?"
Good advice.
And it opened doors in my head that I had no idea even existed. What he was pushing me to do, and I've had leaders and bosses who helped me do this as well, was to stand in the shoes of the other person. That sense of make the space for them to explain to you why they're resisting what you think you all ought to be doing. And it stood me in such good stead, advice like that, both from my dad, who wasn't a professional, and lots of the people I've had the absolute honor of
Yeah.
working with in senior roles above me in all sorts of organizations. Where where is the source of the resistance? What is what's going wrong between you and them that you don't understand each other and you can't have a sensible conversation about finding a direction? Take a step back from the table. Let's all calm down. It does stand you in very good stead in very pressured environments, political or otherwise. You get
Correct. Yeah.
nowhere by shouting. Everybody's brain goes into fight or flight if all you do is
Yeah.
shout at each other.
Yeah.
And tempting as it can sometimes be to bang the table, you can't. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. You've worked in systems that can be political, pressured, and emotionally demanding. Are there any other ways that you find that you adapt to that help you stay connected to those foundations in those environments other than, calling home and speaking to your mum and dad?
The there is that, but there's also every job I've gone into, which was a step up from the job I had last, I've always gone in as a learner. I've always
Right.
gone in as a, "You know this place better than I do. Talk me through what we need to do to get where we think we need to be," or when the law changed in 2004 and there stopped being separate education and social care for children and young people,
Hmm.
and I had to become, by 2005, a director of children's services when I wasn't a social worker. I'd never worked in youth justice, or any of those settings. I made it my business to try and empty as much of my diary as possible and spend time with people who were expert at what they were doing.
Right. That's
and
good.
to learn
Yeah.
that
Ground level.
learn alongside thing that I don't know how to do this, but you do. Can I watch how you do it
Yeah.
without
So
breaking
shadowing.
boundaries, without
Yeah.
breaking confidentiality between clients and you as a worker. That sense of the sit alongside and be an apprentice in their setting.
Yeah.
You you win hearts and minds sometimes by admitting that you don't know absolutely everything about this situation.
And also it makes you relatable, you know,
Is
to
it
those people.
I think any leader who loses sight of the notion that there are moments when you actually have to smile across the table and say, "I'm really sorry, I don't know," is on a hiding to nothing. You can only lead if people will follow, and if you make it impossible for them to follow you because you sit on your big shiny white horse, then why would they follow you?
Yeah.
Especially if
Yeah.
their jobs are incredibly difficult because they are
Yeah.
face to face with people whose
Yeah.
lives are on the edge.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
That sense of humility that has to come along with expertise is really
Correct.
important.
What does ethical leadership mean to you in practice, not just in theory, then, following on from that?
I think as a leader, if you're not driven by the reason why your service or your organization exists, you lose sight of the ethical grounding that brought you in the first place. And I think particularly in caring and human focused services or settings
Vocational
or
jobs.
organizations,
Yeah.
it's more than a job. You
Yeah.
were driven to decide that you wanted to do this rather than go and be a city trader.
Yeah.
And there are ethics that drive city traders. You can't play
Yeah.
about with other people's money and then not
And
suffer if you get caught, for example. So, but but in service environments, the ethics begin with the people you are serving. What do these people need from us as an organization, rather than
yeah.
simply what does the government want, or what does Ofsted want, or what does the CQC want, or what does HMI Constabulary and Fire and Rescue Services want?
I'm really glad
What
you said
what
that.
do the people I am
Yeah.
serving
100%.
need from the people I am leading through this landscape? And if we can't do it because it would break a moral code, or it would be bad for them, or we seriously, seriously can't afford it, part of my ethical code is to stick with those people and try and get them to help them to understand why we can only do part of what they want, or why it will have to be amended. Because why would they come with you and trust you to deliver a service if you're not prepared to be honest with them?
Yeah. So
Um,
clarity.
and is it
Yeah.
tiring?
That's
Absolutely, it
good.
is. And do you need to go away and sit very quietly for a weekend with a very big bar of chocolate? Yes, of course you do. But the ethics of what drive you are still the ethics of what drive you. And that
I
can be
do
really
that on a
hard
Friday.
sometimes because you can be the one person in the landscape who's still saying it if you're not careful. But it almost always,
No,
it
I
was
get it.
I can't remember whether it was Barack Obama or Martin Luther King who said the arc of the narrative bends always towards justice. And I continue to hope in that, even when times and media and politicians and badly behaved individuals try and knock that belief out of me. The There is a basic good in almost all people,
Yeah. Yeah.
and if you have to dig to find it, then you dig. And that's also part of leadership. The person who's in your team who's
Yeah.
reticent or backwards at coming forwards
Yeah.
deserves a
Good
great deal of
leadership.
your attention, and not driving or insisting attention, but listening attention. Leadership is hard. Yeah, it's a battle between what you want done
Yeah.
and what can be done. It's
And
always,
what they
always a
want.
struggle. So,
Mhm.
yeah, but why get up if you're not gonna do something that challenges you?
That leads us really well into the next section, which is all about emotional intelligence. And you have touched on it already, but I just wanted to understand the emotional landscape behind your work. and your work has required you to hold a lot: responsibility, scrutiny, public pressure, and the emotional realities of safeguarding. So I just wanted to know, what has the emotional side of your work looked like behind the scenes?
I know that people tend to experience me as a self-confident, on the front foot, well briefed and well prepared individual. What sits
Okay.
inside me is the imposter. At some point, they're going to work out that I don't know what I'm
Right.
talking about and I don't know what I'm doing here. And why would they listen to me? And
That's
that's,
so
yeah,
human.
I'm a lot less secure than
Yeah.
people. But it's very real. And I don't know whether it's just about, kids from working class backgrounds who weren't brought up to believe that they rule the world, and or whether it's about being a woman, and or whether it's about you can never cover all the bases of what you might be on a stage talking about.
No.
Um, and the emotional toll is very real. Is very real. So a holiday has to be a holiday. Um, you know, go and sit in a field for a week in silence on a retreat and listen to beautiful music has to be
Yeah.
that. That sense of,
Yes. Yes.
if
So
you let yourself, so I somebody once said to me, not only can you not pour from an empty jug, you very definitely can't pour from a broken one. Sort yourself out, Maggie, or
mhm.
you are going to burn.
Yeah. So
And
you have
that
to
sense of giving your all
you
to
have to build
something
that
and there
emotional
being nothing left
resilience.
of you is it's a very real challenge.
Yeah.
Any leader, any manager, any worker in any service I've ever come across, the current state of the NHS, the current state of education, so many teachers that
Yeah,
burn
we
out
won't
from
go
it.
there at the moment.
You come wanting to give your all, but if you give your all every day, all the time, what's left? So the
Yeah,
emotional
100%.
tethers in my life remain home, family, literature, music. A husband who says, "For God's sake, woman, will you sit in the captain's chair? You're not mending the boat. Sit in the captain's chair." Ex-submariner, you know, they need you to stand right back and let your emotions
Mhm,
rest a minute so that you can give them the space to grow into what they need to be. And that goes for children you're working with, it goes for adults with learning disabilities you're working with. It certainly goes for the elderly who feel disenfranchised and
mhm.
disempowered at every turn.
Yeah.
Um, that sense of
Yeah,
your emotional core needing to be stable, but giving the emotional space to others to do their very best, to be their very best, is vitally important. Because not only do you then not burn out, but they don't feel done unto, they feel done with. That then refills your emotions because they do something astounding and you
mhm.
think, there you go, see, that's
Yeah.
fantastic.
How did you manage the weight of the decisions you were responsible for then, when it comes to that inner turmoil?
It was always about needing a team.
To
You know,
being able to rely on the people around you.
nobody is, yeah, nobody is Caesar. When you're delivering services as complex as the ones that I know you know about, and so do I,
Yeah.
everybody, everybody from I'll use an analogy that I use a good deal. We live fairly close to a local primary school, and one of the core members of the team that gets those children through a school day is the guy who
Mhm.
sees them across the road at the
Oh,
bottom of our
yes.
street.
Yes.
He's
Yeah.
been there for years. He's known
Yeah.
children who are now 11 and about to go to secondary school who from
Yeah.
since they were in nursery. He knows their
Yeah.
parents, he knows the community, he lives around the corner. He's as much part of the team as the caretaker who unlocks the school and locks it up at night, and as the head teacher who runs the whole site. And if he knows that there's something about this family that he's just seen across the road that he's really not sure about, and oh my goodness,
Yeah.
I'm quite concerned, he knows
Yeah.
who to go and talk to.
Yeah.
Nobody can do anything in a service environment on their own.
No.
You know,
No.
the porters who move people in a hospital are at least as important as the consultant who does the surgery.
And the
'Cause
cleaners.
it and the cleaners
They
and the
know so
auxiliaries and
much.
yeah, the physios,
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
a knee replacement in 2015 and the physios got me out of bed on day 1 and I was up and down 10 stairs before they let me out of the door. and I hated them because it was horrible and really painful, but I'm so grateful they were there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
100%.
it's that sense of unless everybody has their hands on the materials, you can't make the building stand.
No.
And that goes for families, it goes for communities, and certainly goes for every service environment. Everybody matters enormously. And when you think back to the period that everybody wants to forget, which is the COVID pandemic,
Yeah.
if we hadn't had each other to rely on, we would have had an
We
even worse experience than so many people actually had.
yeah.
You know?
I
If
yeah.
communities hadn't come together, shopped for each other, looked over the old lady's shoulder, knocked on doors and said, "Are you okay? Can I get you anything? I'll leave it on your
Yeah.
doorstep."
Yeah.
For months and months and months, and services said, "Let's drop the badges, let's drop the hierarchies, let's work together. This is our
Yeah.
community. People live here and we serve them." It was remarkable what happened during that period, and we lose it at our peril because it made a difference to how services talk to each other and work with each other. And it's those are the things. I may well have been carrying the can and my name was on the document, but if I hadn't had my team, I'd have been a failure
Yeah.
in all the
Yeah.
positions I've ever felt.
Were there moments where you felt the emotional cost of leadership, and how did you navigate them?
I'm a big weeper, so one of the things I would probably do is cry all the way home, and then sit either with myself or with somebody else, either in the room or on the phone,
Mm.
and unpick it. Because the other thing I am is a huge self-blamer. I
Okay.
am I am my own worst critic. I should have been able to
Okay.
fix it. I should have been able to make it work. I should have been able to sort it out. I should have been able to make that person see.
Right.
And oh my goodness me, we're in a tangle now, and that tangle is my fault.
So your emotional
Yeah.
your emotional
Um,
intelligence must really help you with boundaries, because if you're bringing it home, you've obviously got to find a way of working that out for yourself, and having your
but
life outside of work.
absolutely. But my reckoning is that it's better that you bring it out
Mhm.
than that you go away and stew on it for weeks and weeks and weeks
Yeah.
at a time. Um, and that having brought it out, that you find the person either in your team or in a neighboring team or in a service that does what you do but is 25 miles away, and you talk through how it is that you are going A, to recover, and B, to make it a learning moment so that you can all go forwards. And
Yeah.
it painful? Sometimes it's desperately painful and very, very difficult. But not only for me as a person, for me in the hot seat, but for all those who work around
Yeah.
me.
But that's how we build emotional intelligence. We work through it. We face
It
it.
is. It is, and I've sat in fairly important crunch meetings with people who've had to be briefed beforehand to be very clear indeed that they
Mm.
either say what has to be said in the meeting
Mhm.
or it doesn't get said. And what I
Yeah.
don't need is for somebody to come round into my office 3 weeks later and say, "The coffee machine conversations are saying this." Because
Yeah.
we've had a compact with each other that
I hear what
honesty
you're saying. Mhm.
is gonna be at the centre of what we talk to each other about, and doing that negative, breakable gossip thing round the edges gets nobody anywhere and just winds people
Yeah.
up to a point where you're not
So
listening to each other.
this is exactly how I run my business, which is, if there's an issue, we bring it up at the time. We don't bring it up 2 weeks later, and that's a lot to do with emotional intelligence, because actually 99% of problems can be worked out when they're dealt with at the time. Um, and again, like you said, it's trusting the team around you that they're going to support you, having people to talk to so you can work through it, and then addressing the problem and making everyone around you feel safe to do that, which I feel like this conversation does as well. When I have people on the podcast, the listeners, I hopefully will understand that This is a really authentic, genuine conversation about real people, real lives, meeting people where they're at, and just being really genuine about what's going on and the skills we
And
really
I
do
think
need to get through it.
there's also a strand of honesty, Sadie, when, you know, you work in a caring profession,
Hmm.
you work in a caring business. I've worked with, particularly children and young people, but not always, young adults as well, whose lives have been shredded, really, by the adversity of what they faced.
Hmm.
And if you reach a point of trust where they're prepared to tell you their story, the emotion that they bring into that space can sometimes be raw and difficult to hear, and certainly difficult to carry. But part of the trusting relationship that you are trying to forge with them has to be based on the notion that if they tell you, you will do something with what they tell you. There's nothing tokenistic about the conversation. It has to
Yeah.
be based on, I am trusting you with my inner self
Hmm.
because you've told me I can. And
Yeah.
if you now don't do something with what I've trusted you with, why have I told you?
Yeah.
Why would I trust you to have another conversation again in 2 weeks' time? That creates weight on the shoulders of anybody in a caring profession.
I think as long as you discuss the implications of that conversation and they're clear from the get go with you, again, it's all about clarity, um, being honest, and you come at it with a certain level of emotional intelligence. I think those pitfalls can be ridden over, and do the
They
right
they
thing.
can, they can, but one of the things that I think we neglect at our peril is the level of training and professional development that
Mm,
even very junior staff are or are not given
I agree.
to walk into a space where they may be faced with
They're not
things that they don't know
trained.
what to do
Yeah.
with.
No, they're not.
And,
And
the current discussion in this country about children with special educational needs and disabilities, their families know a great deal more than the professionals they're dealing with about their own children and young people. And that sense of what is the training and professional development that you're going to give to somebody who's paid a fairly low salary to do incredibly heavy lifting and shifting work with those children and young people? And if you're not going to train them properly, why are you telling them they are valuable?
yeah, correct. So we're talking about professionalism, which is what
Yeah.
we're all about in my sector.
Which
We're
is
going
which
to,
it can't be a cloak or a mask, Sadie. It
oh,
has to be.
no, no.
You don't go in as if you're wearing a suit of armor, but you go in
Mm.
equipped.
Oh, yes, yes. And again, I hope my listeners understand that when we're talking to you, we're learning. This is all about training, development, acknowledgement. Um, and I have a different guest every week, so that gives you a different perspective on everything. But it's all such a great learning tool because it's coming from the experts. What practices or boundaries helped you stay grounded and human in roles that demanded so much of you, especially after hearing somebody say something you've got to report or document?
I consider myself a very lucky individual in that I walked into my first work was in teaching. And uh, what I would say about adolescents then and now is that they are inveterate truth tellers, especially if when you're in a pastoral role, if you're a form tutor or a year head or
Right.
you are their named trusted individual, trusted adult. They will come to you with their triumphs. They will come to you with their challenges.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite possible that the other people in the school who are teaching them or working with them will come to you and say, "They've astounded me today. Did you know they could do that?" At which point you then have a duty to go back round the circle and find that child and say, "I know that you did this in geography or you scored this
Yeah.
cricket, and you just need to know that I think you're amazing." And that sense of several way play in relationships with human beings, you're never treating a case or a client or a study or whatever. You're treating a human being, you're working with a human being. As a teacher, you are teaching young people to be the next generation of people who will lead and parent and work and run businesses. That sense of connection
Yeah.
without breaking professional boundaries and becoming super, super, super emotional, that sense of connection with the people you're working with is absolutely invaluable because
Correct. Yeah.
they spot your weaknesses and your strengths and they'll
Mm.
come up to you and say, "Are you all right, miss?" If you're not feeling well or something's gone wrong or you've had a disaster at home or whatever. And you're not breaking professional boundaries if you say, "Having a bit of a time of it, but I'll be all right. How are you?"
Mm.
That that's those in the corridor conversations, those at the bus stop conversations,
Yeah.
those in the garden over a cup of tea conversations
Yeah.
matter enormously. And they've always been what brings me back, knowing why I've done what I've done in my career. That actually the incidental moments of a colleague saying, "I saw what you did then, and I think that was fantastic. I'm gonna take that away and use it," or, "I wouldn't have done it like that, Maggie. Dangerous." That
That's honest,
those
because we all
things.
make mistakes.
Yeah,
We're not perfect.
yeah, yeah.
No,
Those
totally.
those matter enormously, and what you then go on and learn, both from the people you're working with and the people you're working for, is also invaluable, and it brings you back full circle to why you do what you do and why you are who you are.
That's brilliant. We're just going to go into reflective care now because we're definitely going in that way when you look at your why and reflect back. Your work has required you to reflect deeply on systems, on people, on culture, on yourself. Reflection has been a tool, a discipline, and sometimes a lifeline. What does reflective practice mean to you, Maggie, and why is it so important in safeguarding and leadership?
Reflective practice to me means that every time you step into your work environment and put your badge on, you know you're going to learn. You know that every day will give you something where you think, "I thought I knew that, but now I know it in 3 dimensions," or "That's new. I need to go away and have a think about that." It then moves into, and there are cycles of reflective practice all over the internet, aren't there? Of course there are.
Yeah.
But for me, it moves into, and I've seen this work in care organizations, it's when people come out from behind the desk and sit with each other, and each person pledges to bring something into the room that's eating at them, whether it's a problem that requires solving or a triumph that they weren't expecting and they don't know what to do with, or a challenge that they know they all face.
Mhm.
And really good reflective supervision or reflective group think or group work then relies on everybody having the space and time to express what it is they've brought into the room and then to brainstorm with each other and each other's different professionalisms on what to do with it now, where to take it next, what it's teaching them, where are the lessons to be learned, whether anybody further up the hierarchy needs to know about this because it's tricky or it's brilliant or it's heading for failure or it's heading for success.
Mhm.
That sense of becoming a learning community that is constantly learning, and sometimes that's reinforcing what you know you already knew,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
sometimes it's saying, "I've learned something from you today. I'm gonna take it away and weave it into my practice, and when we come back together in a month from now, we'll start with where we stopped today, and that will be our first 5 minutes." It's an absolute cycle. Somebody once described it to me as almost like a glass spiral staircase, where
Mhm.
you go up 3 steps and you can see, because it's glass, the steps further down the layers, and
Yeah.
you go up the 3 steps and you think, that one down there, I didn't finish that. I'll just go back down the spiral
Yeah,
and bring it
yeah,
back up with me. It's
yeah,
iterative, it's
yeah,
constant. It's that sense where you think you know that piece of poetry and you put it down 18 months ago and now you're coming back to it and reading it again and you think, blimey, that feels like the first time I've ever read that
yeah,
because you've had 18 months of life between the last time you read it and you're reading it
yeah,
today.
yeah.
And it's
You
just
do,
as powerful and just as gorgeous and just as wonderful, but you learned something new all over again. You didn't know that line
yeah.
5 meant that.
That's what I love about reflective care is that, especially because I'm self-employed and I'm got my own business, and I feel I have a really, even more of a duty to train myself and stay abreast of what's going on because obviously I've got no one to do that for me. And I really feel those moments throughout the year. I think there's normally about 5 or 6 of them where I feel like I'm flying forward and then life puts the brakes on and says, actually, you you don't know this, go back. And I feel like I'm taking 2 steps back, bit like your spiral staircase. And then that when I learn that, that's when I can go forward. Um, and I find it's quite a seasonal thing as well. It's I don't know if it's the weather or, I feel like I went through one quite recently actually. And if you're reflective, you notice these periods and you notice, you feel it, you think it, and other people around you see it as well. And I love
But
that
it's
because,
also for me, Sadie, it's also really good reflective practice is never judgmental.
mm,
It's developmental
yes,
based on lessons truly being learned, not just somebody standing on a hospital steps or a care home steps or a school steps and saying, lessons will be learned. It's
mm,
truly about that developmental, what shall we do differently? That's scary or challenging, or we all need to do together because we've had this time of reflection to look at
yeah,
some real life case
real life,
studies
yeah,
and examples
yeah,
that we know we can take forward into practice with others. It really good reflective practice is unbeatable. But it can be scary because you will ask each other really hard questions. So,
yes, yes, definitely. When you enter a service or organization, what are the first things you like to pay attention to?
how are people talking to each other
Mm-hmm.
in those
Yeah,
incidental moments? You know, when I work with EACT,
very good.
what I like to find out about when I walk into a school is if I'm standing in reception and it's a lesson change or it's a start of a break time or whatever, are children confident enough to come up and say, "Hello, you're new. Are you waiting to see somebody?" Or
Yeah,
"What's your name?"
yeah,
And if they're not, or if they come up to me and speak to somebody and there's an adult going, that's a visitor, you don't do," my internal hackles start to rise. Is this a
mm-hmm.
community? Is Have I just walked into a space where I'm likely to be greeted with a smile? You know, my doctor's practice is as busy as any. It's got as many thousand patients as any. But if I walk through the door, as I did this morning for a blood test, somebody says, "Oh, hello, Mrs. Atkinson. How are you?" Even though they're busy, even though the phones are going crazy, and the nurse, I sit down with the nurse and she says, "All right, have you got plans for the weekend?" Now, those are the kind of human thing. And then how calm is it? How noisy or quiet is it? If it's supposed to be a therapeutic space, how beautiful is it? Who's taking care of the environment? Those are those first impression moments. The rest of the visit can then go, and am I gonna prove or disprove those first impressions?
You've also made me think about another point, which is whatever level you're at, we're in social services. So the key words there are social. So it's the talking, the greeting, the hello, and it's a service. So it's the how confident are you in the service? Is it calm? Is it relaxed? Do you feel like it's appropriate for what they're offering? First impressions. And, if you can't address what those two things are in your business or your environment, then you're heading down a one-way road to nowhere because That's what people are thinking when they see it. And it sounds like the details, but actually it could be the make and break of a institution, school, service. Um, and people don't have time to spend 50 minutes to go around a place to make these judgments. They happen so quickly. Um, it's like us meeting today, for this conversation. We've never met each other before. But already I can feel what a lovely, genuine person you are, and how much you've probably helped a hell of a lot of people, um, and how much we can learn from you. So, it's those first impressions, isn't it? It just means so much. And reflective care helps you develop that really quickly and really thoroughly as well.
But it trains your radar.
Yeah,
Do
yeah,
you know that
absolutely.
what did I learn in that place that I will take into the next place I
Yeah,
visit and think, "Oh, that's
mm,
interesting."
yeah, I know exactly what you mean. So, how do you encourage teams to reflect honestly without feeling judged or defensive? So, we're going up a gear now because this is a hard one.
My experience has taught me that the best way of doing that is to encourage them to bring a true story, even if names are anonymized and personal details are redacted, to bring a true story about
Sorry
their
about that.
practice or about the service they offer into the discussion space so that there's a sense of authenticity. But it's also about making sure that managers understand that asking, "Why did you think that?" rather than, "Well, you shouldn't have done that," will get you a lot further. The why did you think that at the time, and why
Yeah,
did what happened happen?
yeah.
And if you had the chance to go back and undo it or to do it again, would it be the same or would it be different, or how would you have learned? The kind of who, what, why, when, where questions rather than the
So
rush to
true.
judgment.
Yeah,
Everybody's defensive of their own practice, aren't they?
yeah,
Everybody who's a professional at anything is defensive of their own practice. But if you've been watching
yeah.
the Winter Olympics, the
I haven't had
disappointment
much time, but I have enjoyed some of it. Yeah,
the disappointment on the faces of the women's curling team yesterday had to be seen to be believed. But they were all capable, despite their extreme disappointment, of saying, "We know where we went wrong. We know where we have to learn.
yeah.
We know that on the day they were the better team or the luckier team or a mixture of the two. And it is disappointing, but we've come this far and we're proud." And you think, you know, everybody needs to be a sporting type, a sporting person, and admit that sometimes, you catch the edge of a blade on your skates or you catch the edge of the snowboard and it all goes crazy and you can't deal with it. But actually, somebody somewhere will have taught you how to pick yourself back up again.
Yeah,
And
so we're talking about resilience.
but we're also talking about coaching, aren't we? We're talking
Yeah,
about getting people to have the coaching conversation in their own minds that they then bring
yeah,
into a meeting
yeah,
from the
yeah,
point of
I
view
see.
of how are we going to take this forward so
Hmm.
that if there was an error, we don't make quite that error ever again. Rather than creating, I mean, if you create conflict, then what you get is people shouting at each other,
Or not
and
talking.
you stop listening, don't you? If all that ever happens is you get shouted at,
Yeah, no,
it's
totally.
no way to
Yeah,
do the work.
yeah, absolutely. Can you share a moment where reflective practice created a real shift for a team or a service?
Yeah,
Not a curling team.
without naming places, in a safeguarding partnership environment, the light bulb moment was when somebody really quite junior said, "Do any of you people at the top of these organizations understand what amazing practices are going on every day?" And somebody at the table was humble enough to say, "I'm not sure, how would we find out?" And that junior person said, "You'd ask the children and young people we work with to nominate the best practice they experience, especially the children and young people who are vulnerable."
Agreed. Agreed.
And we started to get an
Mm.
influx of that was simple postcard based, and they could draw if they couldn't write, or they could ask somebody to help them say what they needed to say. We started to get scrapbooks worth of incredible comments, you know?
Yeah.
She's my hero because she helps me see my dad, or she's my hero
Yeah.
because I was scared to go to school and she's the person who came in and helped me to cross the door.
Yeah.
Or
I
he's
totally
my
agree.
hero because my mum was falling apart and he came in and he didn't judge, he just helped us put it all back together.
Yeah.
And we ended up putting them up in public places, canteens and coffee rooms and staff breakout areas. And
Mm.
it was for me, it was reflection that had come out of the client group and into the professionals' lives.
Yeah.
And I you
Yeah.
started to watch people in the coffee queue reading these things that were on the wall and going, "I know that worker. I'm gonna go and find her and find out what."
Yeah.
And that kind of CPD on the hop or on an incidental basis changed the mood in those services, changed the way in which they looked at themselves and each other. And I mean,
Good
it's
point.
a long time since I was working there, but I understand that that sort of, "I'm just gonna give this person a little pat on the back, a little mark of applause, a little notion of what difference they're making in somebody's lives."
Yeah.
And it
Reinforce their
puts
why.
it becomes part of the way we talk to each other. "Have you seen anything great this week? Have you seen anything wonderful this week? Have you seen anything that we need to celebrate?" That sense of, we have it in ourselves to make this place better, and we need to stop always beating ourselves up and
Yeah.
start to talk about what it looks like when it works.
So that's exactly the sort of questions I ask all my PCN members as PCN lead for Gloucestershire every week. Every week. Even if it's a little thing, it doesn't matter. And that really helps bring everyone together, have a conversation. Totally agree. Brilliant, brilliant answer. And we put the person receiving the care first because they're the ones who know the most.
But the glory in that example, Sadie, was that it was actually somebody pretty junior in the organisation who felt brave enough to come forward and ask the questions,
Yeah, I
and
hear
get
you.
the people at the top of the organisations to listen.
To listen. Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. Resilience and the future of care. We just need to move on to this now because I just wanted to ask you, when you think about resilience in care and safeguarding, what does it mean beyond just coping?
I find the word coping really difficult to deal with, because if you're coping, it means that what's been thrown at you is an onslaught.
Yeah.
You know, that sense of, "Oh my god, we'll cope." Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's not okay, is it? But
It's
what is
surviving,
it?
not thriving.
Yeah. What
I
what
hear
is
you.
it that what is it in you that
Mm,
makes you able to lean across the table and go, "We'll cope, it'll be all right." And what's in you is that resilience, is that sense of, we've seen problems this big before, we know that there is a means of not bouncing back, but actually moving forward. Um, and for me, that sense of, w where do we go from here so that we don't get the wheels stuck so far in the mud that we never move again? Um, and it's about far more than coping. It's about finding that sense of why you do what you do. Who
yeah.
around you may have a better idea than you do about
Yeah.
how you move this forward, and how you're going to actually make space for that dialogue to happen so that you can do
Hmm.
it.
Yeah,
Um, and then I'll
absolutely.
let you use the word coping after that.
Right, Maggie. I'm just coping at the moment, so I just want to ask you, and we all want to hear this from you. What do you believe needs to change culturally or structurally? I can't speak now because I'm too hyped up for care to become more sustainable.
I think we have to turn everything on its head, and this sounds desperate. And if there is a signal from government that says that we can and should, it's the 10-year plan. I am heartily fed up of the caring side of the DHSC's responsibilities being kicked into the long grass. If you can get in early to a family's life, to a client's life, to an elderly person's life, to a young person with learning difficulties life,
Mhm.
and meet them where they are and say,
Yeah.
"Where are your strengths? Where are even the tiniest green shoots of
Mhm.
strength and ability? How do we make that grow?" So we need this. This has got to be a kind of all hands on deck approach. It seems to me. Getting in early is very often the work of faith groups, neighbours, community bodies, voluntary organisations, food banks. It's not even people who are in the caring professions. It's your neighbours and the people in your neighbourhood
Yeah.
and the people in your community, the
Yeah.
people in your block of flats, people you meet on
It's
the bus.
everybody in care.
Yeah. And waking ourselves as a nation up to the notion that you don't always need to haul in masses and masses of professional services. You need to change the mentality that says if it takes a village, then we are the village. I can only be me because there are people round me who help me to be me, and I owe it to them to help
Yeah.
them to live their lives as well.
So we talk
If you can't get your bin out because you've just had a hip replacement, tell me and I'll shift
asking
it
me.
for you.
Yeah.
It
So we're
it
talking about
it's that really, really
collaboration.
simple it's that really, really simple bottom end stuff. We need in the care sector better to value domiciliary care, better to value old people being discharged from hospital into a proper care package where somebody drops in every day. This happened to my late mum. The hospital she was in, she had a fortnight on a pneumonia thing and then a fortnight of rehab in the hospital. And when she came home, there was a constant stream of auxiliary workers, healthcare assistants, whoever and whoever and who, just dropping in. I'm just here to
Yeah.
see you, Kath. Shall we have a cup of tea? And not on a 15-minute by 15-minute basis, but for half an hour at a time. So that mum could say, "I don't need a cup of tea. Shall we have a chat? I'm really fed up this morning."
Yeah. Yeah.
And
$100%.
they monitored how well she was doing. They were in constant touch with her GP and her carer. You know, I mean, she died in hospital, but she died in hospital having lived on her own as an independent person with support until she was nearly 91. She'd have died the death in a care home. That's the top end of where people ought to be, not the early end. And unless the 10-year plan really lets go, pushes resources down to the bottom end, pushes resources into the hands of people who know what to do with it, which will be different in Cornwall from Cumbria, Minister. It's not going to be a standard model and it's not going to be recordable on a data sheet. It will be different in every community.
Yeah.
Unless
I
they
hear
are
you.
brave enough to do that and stop the addiction to everything being in hospital and everything having a pill for every ill, we're not going to get anywhere. It's a seismic change we need, a revolutionary change towards care, not illness, towards wellness, not being poorly. And my goodness me, I don't know how we do it, Sadie, but that's what we need. And we need everybody to be singing from that hymn sheet.
Yeah. So we're talking about collaboration. We're also talking about something you can hear in my podcast. I talk about people who know me, know me well, know I talk about it. Prevention rather than treatment. Get in early, and then we won't have these ridiculous hospital admissions. And you're just backing that all up, and you're the expert. So I I think I know what needs to be changed, but it's whether they will support that because the money isn't coming down to us. Um, the encouragement, the label of professionalism isn't being put on us. We're still seen as, home help or cleaners or whatever. We're not. We're a lot more than that. And in fact, even nurses now will say how much they put on home carers because they're struggling. Um, and we need more leaders like yourself, Maggie, that actually go out into the community and see what is going on every single day, what real people with real lives are doing, and just to wake up, like you said. So
It
that's really interesting.
yeah, I mean, there's enough legislation The Care Act,
Yeah.
which everybody says is just about the vulnerable and people who need extra help. Actually, the Care Act also contains huge sections on enablement, empowerment, keeping people in their own homes.
Mhm.
One
Which
of the
is what
questions
we're all
that
about.
yeah, one of the
Yeah.
questions that you asked about was where are the innovations? Um, my sister who works in primary care, she's a part of the practice management group in her particular place. In her previous surgery, which was a very big practice covering a very wide rural area, they realized that the local care homes had a constant on a bungee lead between care home and care home and hospital for old people who were constantly
Yeah.
suffering from urinary tract infections.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
district nurses came up with the idea of going in and training all these terribly young 19-year-olds on minimum wage what hydrating an old people's community actually looks like. How do you get an old person to drink enough? And they train them and train them and train them. And the numbers being on that bungee lead between the care homes and the hospitals in that community dropped by 90%. 90%. Because everybody
Yeah.
in the care home community was
Yeah.
trained
Yeah.
on hydration. And you end up with fewer confused, desperately poorly, desperately disoriented elderly people in the backs of ambulances.
Yeah.
It's
I
not rocket
couldn't agree
science,
more.
Sadie. It's
No,
not
it's
rocket
not.
science.
But people need to understand, like, I've done it for 22 years, and everything you're talking about, I can totally relate to. And anybody who's ever done the job or worked with me will know we all understand this, but we're not seen as professionals.
I
And
know, it's
that's
a
the
shocker.
problem. Is like actually we're doing a lot more than just hydrating. We're looking at the whole body, the whole person, we're dealing with the families. Um, and I'm really glad you said what you said, because I think unless they put social care at the forefront of any policy now, we're in trouble
Yes,
because of the ever
absolutely.
growing population. We're living longer. Hospitals are at breaking point. Wake up. I totally agree with you. I think we're
But they're
saying the same
also
thing here.
they're absolutely even in 2026, there is not a pill for every ill.
No,
There is human
no.
connection
Yeah,
that will keep
totally.
you sane and on your feet.
Going on from that, I mean, where do you see signs of hope or innovation in the sector?
I think the conversations that we're all having are the biggest signs of hope. What needs now to land is it needs to get onto permanent secretaries and ministers' desks. In just the same way as Lord Timpson in the prison sector is making people think much more roundedly and three-dimensionally about what you do in terms of rehabilitation, not just penning people in and holding them in the prison
Yeah,
sector. How do you make them into citizens when they leave? We have to get to that point where we are honest enough to have conversations like the one you and I are having now at every level, including on the floor of both houses of parliament.
yeah,
Um, because that's where the change will be driven. Don't write me a 10-year plan and then not properly resource it. Don't write me a 10-year plan and then insist on holding on to control from the centre, because it will only work if you push it out into localities, out into
yeah,
community who know
yeah,
what's needed, you
yeah.
know?
Totally agree with you. Totally agree. What do you want future leaders to understand about values, feelings, and responsibilities? Which carries on from what you just said.
One of the questions that stops everybody in their tracks is if we were talking about my sister, my mum, my dad, my brother, we're 70 this year, my twin and I. Um, what would we want? Okay, then you go away and you design around the people who are telling you what they want and need. And if you have to have the difficult conversation that says it can't be afforded, can't be done, then they actually need to know why.
Yeah,
And it is not beneath you to do that explanation. In fact, it's
yeah,
behoven on you to do that
yeah.
explanation. And that puts you in a difficult and exposed and emotionally challenging place. But that's why you're paid what you're paid.
But also, I think it's it's about coming up with innovative ways to try and make it happen for them because
Yes.
it is patient led, it is client led. So
Do it with, don't do it to.
yeah,
You're not there to do it to. Somebody did it with you to get you through
hmm
university into whatever it is you've done with your
yeah,
career. Somebody
yeah,
sat alongside you and said, "Of course you can, of course you can, of course you can."
yeah.
You owe it to the people you serve to do
You
that.
do, yeah, 100%. And finally, final question, because it's been a really informative and deep conversation. We've just got so much to untangle here. But finally, I just want to know what still matters to you right now, Maggie.
The biggest understanding that all of us need to carry, whatever it is our job might be, and whoever we serve or don't serve, and whatever we're doing with our lives. Two things really. In service industries and service professions, it is not about you. It categorically is not about you. It's about the people you serve. But whoever you are, wherever you work and whatever you do, what comes towards you every day are just people,
Mm,
and so are you.
brilliant.
And you
If
deserve your place on this planet just like they do, but so do they. And
did you hear that
contin
from Maggie, everyone?
that continues to drive what I do. Even as I start to scale my career back and try to be a creative old lady rather than somebody who's working like crazy. Yeah, yeah. Those are the things that have driven me all my life and continue to drive me.
Wow. That's, I mean, that's a lot of wisdom to take on board. And that's just incredible. Maggie, I'm going to wrap this up now, but that is just so insightful. And how I
None
just
of it
can't
comes from
imagine
me.
nobody not getting
I've learned it
anything.
from other people, Sadie. I've learned it from other people.
I just can't imagine that no one is not going to get anything from this conversation because you are care personified. Um, and you were born to do this. So it's amazing that you can share all your wisdom with us today. Thank you for bringing your depth and honesty and humanity into this conversation. What you've shared today is more than a professional journey, it's a window into the values, the feelings, and the inner world that have shaped, and I'm going to say this loudly, a lifetime of service. You've reminded us that leadership is not just about decisions, it's about integrity, it's about courage, it's about knowing who you are and what you stand for. You've shown us that safeguarding is not just a system, it's a moral commitment. And you've offered a powerful example of what it looks like to stay grounded, reflective, and emotionally aware in roles that carry enormous responsibility. Your story is a testament to what becomes possible when values and humanity lead the way. To everyone listening, thank you for joining us for this conversation. I hope it invites you to reflect on your own foundations, your own values, and your own inner world. This has been Continuing the Conversation with Sadie and Maggie. Until next time, take care of yourself and each other and keep reflecting, keep growing, and most importantly, keep caring.
Hear, hear.
Thank you.